My name's Tim Stevens, along with Carol, we're advising the team on the quality improvement part of the ELC. And my background is I'm a critical care nurse by training, but last 18 months, 2 years, I've been working with Rupert Pearce on rolling out the EPOC quality improvement intervention along with Carol. So getting a feel now for how you can use quality improvement in preventive medicine to try and improve care. So, first question for you. Hands up, who has already been onto the NELA website and downloaded their own data? Other people? Okay, fine. When you've downloaded it, what have you done with it? How have you analysed it, displayed it, interpreted it?
The huge Excel.
Yes, that huge Excel, that big download of lots of data. What have you done with it? Mortality. Okay, fine. So you're mostly looking at the bottom line. Yeah. Okay. Fine. All right. So yes, we're really going to try and encourage you to use this very rich but overwhelming data set to really see what's going on and then how you can interpret that so you can understand where you're going from to and how your changes are actually working, but also how to tell the story. So actually, how can you engage your colleagues? How do you feedback this data usefully so people can see what's happening with care for MLAP patients in your site? So as you may have clocked already, the process measures that are useful for ELC are all within NELA. So you've got lactate measured preoperatively, time of surgery, consultant surgeon, consultant anaesthetist, cardiac output monitoring, critical care admission, and at the moment we've also got time to antibiotics in there, but over time we will try and refine that metric to be a bit more meaningful. At the moment, that's in there as well. And we've created a very handy workbook, Excel workbook, where you can just take your data straight from NELA, throw it in, press a button, and it will create some time series charts for you, which you can then just start telling your story. So it will be those process measures, plus it will be in-hospital mortality and length of stay. So who's familiar with using time series charts as a way of looking at data? A few ones here and there. Okay, fine. So the rest of the time, this talk is me why I use time series, how can I create these using this marvellous book that Ben programmed, and then how might I present this. So when you think about why, well, so this is the journey, isn't it? So the great thing about ELC is it's a 2-year journey. It's great, actually. So even when EPOC, even the first hospitals who were activated in the first cluster only had 18 months to try and really improve this care processes back when things were perhaps a little bit less advanced as well. So we've got 2 years to really try and get care reliable. And in any journey, with you need to know where you're coming from, where are you at this moment, and where you want to go to, and your data is kind of the key to that. And there are different ways of looking at data, and obviously you've probably seen this from NELA, so you can use a RAG status, based upon certain thresholds, you can see how crap, average, or excellent you are compared to your colleagues. That's useful in certain respects, absolutely. As you've seen these charts quite a lot today, you can do before and afterwards and compare yourself that way. Again, that's quite useful when you're looking summatively at how much you've improved. But actually, when you're on the front line trying to improve things, you want a more detailed description of what's going on. You want to know, you want to know month by month actually what is going on, start understanding the variation in your data, and then what's happening in response to changes you're trying to make. So, look at this. This is compliance or number of percentage average of patients who have a consultant operating on them each month, and month on the bottom. So, what's the first thing that maybe strikes you about that chart?
It's not very consistent.
Yeah, it's really variable, isn't it? But the first half of that chart, really variable month on month. And you think, okay, well, to begin with, you probably won't know why that is, but probably worth finding out. Why does it vary so much month to month? And then you can see actually, from November 14 onwards, there's definitely a trend towards improvement, isn't there? Things, there's more cases above the median. Things are getting better, and then seem to drop off again, getting better again, drop off, and the variation is decreasing a little bit. That may be because you've started to improve things. You've actually actively worked with that. Maybe it's because NELA's capturing the data, or you may have no idea. But the point is, looking over time this way, you can start to see the variation in your data and understand in a more detailed way what's going on, which is important when you're actually at the coalface making these changes yourself. Over time to antibiotics, you can see here, begin with, this random variation around the median. There's obviously, that process is just happening, varying a bit month to month. But then towards the end of the chart, you can see there's a clear, something's happening. So, if you imagine this, maybe this site was activated to EPOC in January of this year, and actually made a quite good start on trying to improve sepsis care. And then, unfortunately, after a few months, things have dropped off a little bit. And that's a fairly typical kind of picture. But again, understanding the variation and then the signals that data gives you. Yeah.
Just a question. I mean, this is assuming that you're inputting the data correctly for this word go, isn't it? Really?
Or into NELA?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And as you looked at the different units, how have you found people who have managed to do that accurately? Because we struggle a bit to capture
okay.
the data. It's all right during the day, but in the middle of the night people don't do it, then it's lost, and then it's a few. So the actual getting the data, it's great if you get the data. But I would say a lot of the variability we see is just because we put incomplete data sets, and then how much effort you put into recording everything when you know that there are big issues in the way that you're not running, or the way that you're running service.
Good question.
I mean,
So
have you, as you've gone around,
oh yes, so I
that
can
works
see,
really
of
well?
the 91 sites in EPOC, there are three main kind of archetypes. There's the smug people who've got it all automated and they're very happy that everything is done prospectively and they feel very pleased with themselves.
So how's that done?
So that's done generally by having some engaged surgeons who are doing data entry before the case starts or in theatre.
So it's still done by, it's not data pulled off.
You can't. No one I don't think has got a good enough electronic notes thing that they were to put it off. Actually, well, you've got to actually put the data into the portal as well. You actually got to physically put the data in, so someone's got to do that. So a lot of places have got the surgeons to do that periodically. So, when they saw the patient, when the system operates, those kind of things, they're all going in at the time.
Because when you're trying to engage people, and that's a big issue, isn't it?
Yeah. And you've got sites which have a mixture. There's some prospective collection, and then there's a lot of catching up, either done by the NELA lead, or if they're very lucky, they've got audit or research person. And there's quite a lot of unfortunate sites that are just collecting all the data themselves retrospectively. And the only thing they're doing prospectively is getting a log maybe of cases, so they know exactly how many sets of notes they need to get each month. I don't know where you are on that list of how you're collecting the data. But yes, you're right. Data collection is a real struggle. I don't know if you all know, NELA is continuing for a few more years, so it's not going away. So actually it's time, if we are struggling to go back to your medical director and say, look, this is a mandatory audit that we're failing on collecting, or I'm spending X number of my SPRs each week trying to get this data. What resource can you offer? Because we've got it for another 2 years.
I think we're good at it, and I just want to share what we're doing, because we collect the data in theatre. I was discussing with Steve before, we got a cow, a computer on wheels, that is wheeled into the emergency theatre that may be different theatre at night. So the person who starts the collection of data is the anaesthetist, that when the patient is asleep. And if there are part of it that he can put himself, and then he will ask, the surgeon, when he finishes the operation, the computer is already there, the NELA is already open, so you quickly, put in your site. What we found is difficult is that if they ask you after 2 weeks to enter some data, you don't remember anything. You ask for the notes, it takes 3 days to get the set of notes. It gets very cumbersome. So I think it is really good, if we started there and then, when we're all keen on doing it. And maybe having a cow is, helpful for us. If we didn't have a computer in the theatre, then it would be more difficult. So maybe it is a good investment.
I think if you can get, obviously prospectively is absolutely the best way. I think if you can find even a little bit of research nurse time, because obviously there is that bit at the end, you've got to follow the patient, and that's often quite onerous. You can even have like a few hours a week for someone to chase up the end of the data collection. That helps a lot, I think. But yes, getting the process right, it's a very good question. It's a thorny issue. Which hospital are you from?
In Bath.
In Bath. Okay, so you had a great research nurse, and now they're gone. You just collect your data for you.
No, yeah.
Well, when we did Elcric, we had one who was fantastic.
Yeah.
So we had loads of data there, and then
Yes.
So we didn't have anyone for 6 months.
Ask a quick question. In the NELA report, there was this
column that said that concordance with HES data, right at the bottom, trusts. Does that familiar? There's a big variation in that.
Yeah.
Because the HES data, in theory, should have captured all these laparotomies, but some trusts would have 95% concordance with HES and some were down at 70%. I mean, is that a way of controlling quality, knowing that you're getting all the hospital's data? Is that what it's being used for?
To some extent, I think when there's big variations, obviously you are wondering, is it because the service has changed somewhat, or is it because there isn't the data capture that there should be?
Yeah.
And I think are aware that they're only getting 80%, nationally, only 80% of the patients that they would like to. So they know there's a missing, and some sites account for quite a lot of that. But it's also that is HES data from what, 2011, I think. So it is historical. Yeah. It's
well, HES data. Oh, is it? Well,
yeah.
HES data is uploaded every quarter. It's about 6 months behind.
But it was. I think the predictions they made were based upon reading the old data. So I think some sites just think they've changed their sort of their surgical profile over that time. But it's a good point, and I think that is part of. Well, that's how they're
quality control.
And they're waiting for the current HES data to be published. They're waiting to link NELA to the currently.
So it's not been linked into it. Oh, I didn't realise that. I thought it was contemporaneous with this report.
So I'm just aware of the time. So in terms of run charts, if you have not read this paper, this is the single best paper I can tell you about time series charts. It's on the website, Rockefeller, Bob Provost, Stanley Murray, doctors who love data, and they have made 4 or so pages of very easy reading about how to use this and the basic probability-based rules you can use to see if your changes in your signals to your data are significant or not. So I'm just very practically tell you about how to make these based upon this workbook that we've created. So the first thing to say is doctors in the room, there are instructions here. Please read them.
Read them after we've tried. We'll hit a few buttons and read.
It is very simple, but if you read them, it does help. So what you want is you want to go onto NELA, you want to access your data. There's even a little screenshot here which tells you which choice you want. Basically, you want the most simple data download, which is just a NELA pro forma, none of the extra additional data that it can offer you because the workbook can't cope with that. Just a basic pro forma, locked data, and you just don't specify a date period, just take it all. Take it from beginning till now. Okay. So you have that open, and you have open the raw data tab, which will look like this: a big, just a blank sheet here. You get your big spreadsheet from NELA, which is column A to column GM. Select and copy all that data. Paste it into box A2, not A1, A2, please. Hit the refresh button, and run charts appear. What I found from using this, and we are still working on the final version, is you also have to hit the refresh button twice to get the median plotted. So the median is the red centre line. Then you get run charts, just 1 per page, for all of the process measures that you want. Even better than that, that drop-down menu there gives you some more options. So actually now you can see your time to surgery by NC per category. So this 6 hours thing is a bit nonsense because obviously not everyone needs to be in theatre within 6 hours. So you can see your time to surgery per group, see how many patients are out with of the appropriate time period. And then again, critical care admission. We've stepped back, Neil's talked at length today about getting everyone into critical care. For some people that's a big ask, and it's a long journey, and there's no point in setting yourself targets you can't achieve in the short to medium term. So you can also stratify by risk, so your PPOSM predicted mortality, and just look at your high risks. And if you really think that's going to be a big challenge, then of course the first thing to do is work on getting all your high risks in. Once you've achieved that, which may be some time, then you can look at all patients. But I think it's worth being realistic about what's achieved in the short term. So just by that drop-down menu allows you to cut up your data a little bit by a couple of different stratifications, which will help you in understanding more about your data. When you do it, easy. Any questions? Yes?
Sorry, Tim, could you just go back to that one bit about how you actually get into that bit from the NELA data site? You know,
How to get it from NELA?
how you get it from NELA in the first place, yeah.
Ah, well. This is facts coming in now, isn't it, today?
Yeah. 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Oh, brilliant. Okay, fine. So, So, Leslie, you've got a NELA login, do you?
Yeah.
Fine. So, let's up my paper. So,
Yeah, no, so I know how to get into NELA, but it's how you get that out of NELA.
oh, so
Okay, so here you go, yeah.
export,
Right, yeah.
and then you just want the basic option, so you want that NELA perform, which is the default, or offers you,
NELA
defaults to locked
perform.
cases, don't specify a date range, and then they just give you all of it, and you just click
Okay.
export to CSV, and it just gives you a little file with all the data in it. And then you're going to open this up,
Okay, great.
and you're going to have that along with the workbook, which, as I said, will be on the website, on our ELC website in the next few days, and Bob's your uncle.
Tim,
Oh,
does
I
the-
see,
does-
so you get that from the ELC
Yes,
website? Oh,
yes,
okay,
yes.
that's what
Just the ELC website, can you get to that through NHS Files?
I've looked at it from Bart's help, so yeah, you can.
When is it available?
Ben, when will that be available?
In the next few days.
I mean, so if people want to go home tonight, not maybe tonight, tomorrow and use it, we can put up the version that's there as long as you know that there's a slightly refined version that's coming.
Yes, I would like, because I would like to have, there's a meeting tomorrow and I would like to add these things. So
Sure, we've got a version it works. It's just there's some more functionality we want to put into it. Yes, I think yes.
In our hospital, one of the needs to see is the lead on the NELA stuff has access to the data set, but I've got like access. Is that possible?
That is
Do I
entirely
need to-
possible. So
how do
if
I
you
apply for access?
you go to data.nela.org.uk, you don't have to log in, you just go to that, and in the top right corner there's a little box that says NELA Help Desk.
Okay.
If you bring them up,
Yeah.
say who you are, they'll click a button and you'll be done, you'll be in.
Excellent. And it doesn't matter, you can have innumerable people in one trust.
Well, the idea is basically everyone should have access to, everyone in the perioperative kind of journey should have access, yeah. So the difference is, there's an access, you need to be clear when you ask for it. You want not just to put data in, you want to get data out. You might need to specify that, otherwise I might just give you the basic rights to input data, but you want to actually export it as well.
Yeah.
That's just another button click, it's easy enough, just need to tell them that. Yes?
Can you go back to your run chart? Because what I want to know from your run chart is, because you've got your nice medians, any of them, yeah, that's fine. So at the bottom there, you've got your median or your mean, whatever.
Yeah.
What I want to know is when there is a statistical change in performance, or what the trend looks like.
Right, okay,
And
so...
I want to see that from that. So,
No, because
can you identify that?
so what we've got here is these 4 points will be the start of a shift in data. So to be statistically significant at 0.05%, 1.05, then you need 6 data points above or below your baseline median.
Okay.
And if you have that, then there's a less than 5% chance that is just chance making that change in the data.
6 in a row.
6 in a row.
Okay.
If any of those points touch the median, do not cross it on the median, you just skip them and carry on counting. But yes, you need 6 in a row. Obviously, if you want it to be less significant, you can just scale it back. But to be at less, 0.05 probability, 6 on the median. And a trend is just any 5 data points going either up, all up or all down. But actually, in terms of, if you want to say, well, actually, we've really cracked, we've shifted this process to be better, you need 6 points in a row.
So that median is for that hospital.
Yes, that's
These graphs will now have the national median on or something to see where you're performing relative to other people.
not yet.
They should do.
Anything's what I've learned with working with these guys is anything's possible, and we will take suggestions like that from
Well, I
you.
think it's
And
useful to see where you're performing relatively.
yeah. Okay, that's a really good point. Like I said, anything within reason, anything is possible.
Well, in time, we want to see how you perform against similar hospitals. don't we?
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
size,
But
region, size.
this, but Tim, so this is the paper. I exhort you to read this paper on the website. Good read. It will tell you all about shifts, runs, the probability-based rules you use to analyse your data. It will make everything clear.